pupils make false allegations of abuse against them and draws on detailed accounts from specific cases.
A teacher with an unblemished record is accused of abuse by a troublesome child. Who would you believe? Teachers' lives are being wrecked by children who tell lies and investigations that take forever. Tonight, the kids that get the upper hand by simply telling tales.
It was only made 3 weeks ago.
9 o'clock Monday morning at the Teachers' Union, the ATL. Jill Sage, their solicitor, takes her first call of the day. A teacher in Belfast is accused of sexual abuse.
Who was it reported to?
Lately, she's been getting 3 or 4 such calls from distressed teachers each week. They used to be rare.
Right. The nature of the allegation was that you just simply touching a pupil on the leg. Was it sort of an accidental touching?
There are no national figures, but one teachers' union estimates that 1,000 teachers are accused of abuse each year.
And what about these other 60 pupils in the 2 classrooms? They surely must have seen something.
Accusations have more than doubled in 3 years, but annually there are still only a handful of successful prosecutions. Teachers conclude they're increasingly the victims of false allegations, taken seriously in today's politically correct environment.
The basic philosophy that we adopt in child protection matters is that the child is always believed, and we follow that in all investigations, whether it relates to a school teacher or any other sort of person.
You want your own back on a teacher because they ain't doing this for you, they ain't doing that for you, and so you just want revenge. And same way, that's still wrong. But saying you can't really take that out of somebody's mind. If they want revenge, I feel that they're going to go out and do it, since they know that they have that power, because power is a very dangerous thing.
The allegations have been made. There's been no decision that nobody's actually said they were unfounded, and I've not been given the chance to say that my case to the police or to anybody, or to prove my innocence in the eyes of anybody else.
All right, thanks for calling in. Don't worry too much. All right then. Bye.
How common is a call like his?
This is the typical call. The abuse cases that we're getting, or the defined abuse cases we're getting, is of normal day-to-day contact. For example, the teacher intervening in a fight, for example, which is obviously part of their duties to protect children, and teachers grabbing children who are running out of classrooms, and teachers who actually try and demonstrate in gym lessons. These are now being defined by the children themselves as abuse, whereas before they would have accepted that sort of behaviour as the role of a teacher.
Suppose you're a teacher, falsely, perhaps even maliciously accused of abusing a child. It's one of the most devastating things that could ever happen. Public Eye has been conducting its own investigations into cases of accused teachers. We've found evidence of serious flaws in the way the authorities handled them, leaving allegations hanging in midair and careers blighted. It's the prevailing instinct to listen to children. But does anyone listen to the teachers? These are their stories.
I went into school in the morning, and the proprietor of the whole establishment phoned me over about 8:30, explained to me that the allegation of a sexual nature had been made against me, and that he'd been instructed by social services to suspend me immediately while pending investigation.
No evidence was ever found against Peter Thomas, and the case was dropped. His tale begins 4 months ago at a private school where he was teaching disturbed children who are often violent. He'd been teaching for 31 years without a single complaint. One boy changed all that.
According to the police, he said that I got an erection and rubbed it against the backside of his body. That's what he actually said.
This is during the course of restraining him?
Yes, that's right, at the end of a restraint period, in which a child had got out through a window on several occasions, was being extremely disruptive and extremely obscene. And I went out to the front door, grabbed hold of him, which I think is my job, because he was going to damage property, if nothing else. I had to put him over a table, because I just didn't have the room. And yes, I had to stand behind him in order to do it. At the end of about 10 minutes, he stopped yelling and bawling and sat down. We then talked it through. Or I imagine we did.
And did you become sexually aroused?
Of course not. Definitely not.
The investigation into Peter Thomas took 8 weeks, presumably because it was such an immensely complicated allegation to sort out. During that time, the authorities were checking all available evidence and interviewing every witness. Or were they? We've decided to do some investigating of our own. In one of the children's homes, owned by the man who also owned the school, we tracked down Ann Bowen. She was Peter Thomas's classroom assistant. Her job, always to be present and always to be on the watch. Leanne, do you remember the incident relating to the accusations made against Peter Thomas?
Yes, I do. I remember him very well.
Did you see any grounds for the complaint that he had sexually abused this boy?
No, not at all. There was nothing. It was just a restraint that had to be done, and nothing went on at all. I was there all the way through it. I witnessed the whole thing.
And at the end of the day, what happened? Did you log it all?
Yeah. Peter wrote it all up. I read it all through. I witnessed it, and I signed the log.
At what point were you interviewed about this by the police or social workers?
No, I never was interviewed at all by any of them.
You were never interviewed?
No, never.
Were you surprised by that?
Well, seeing as I was a witness to the incident, I would have thought someone would have spoke to me, but no, they never come to me at all.
We spoke to the child protection team at Croydon Council involved in this case. Croydon told us to speak to Lambeth Social Services. When we went to Lambeth, they said that in a case conference involving social workers and police, responsibility had been assumed by Croydon Social Services. Croydon then admitted they hadn't interviewed any adult witnesses or known about the logbook Leanne had signed. Then they said they'd handed over investigations to police in Lambeth. When we contacted them, we were told they could not comment on particular cases.
A teacher to punish...
We did ask an officer who runs Scotland Yard's Child Protection Policy Desk, though, how should an investigation of this sort be handled? Would you expect to talk to all the witnesses in a case pretty early on?
Oh, indeed. By speaking to witnesses, we would establish the truth or otherwise of an allegation. And whilst we would always accept the child's word and believe in the child at the outset, we owe it A, to the child, and B, to any potential defendant to establish the truth and elicit all possible information so that the truth will prevail.
What, in principle, would you think, though, of a case where a key witness had not been interviewed ever?
Well, speaking personally, I would want to speak to every potential witness, and I think we owe it to the child, as I said, and we owe it to the accused, that all possible evidence is elicited and made available to the prosecutor.
So you would have expected a witness to be spoken to?
Indeed, I would.
Not speaking to a key witness, not interviewing the accused for 8 weeks, and then not checking the logbook, which any social workers should know is kept by well-run schools. How can this be? We've discovered that omissions like these are not unique.
I think we're coping with a new situation where we don't have any common sense rules to help us find our way through. My view is that the process should be as open as possible, and it is around natural justice, and that one of the problems of the system at the moment is the secrecy. The secrecy is related to the uncovering of evidence and not wanting evidence contaminated by talking to too many people. But it does seem to me that we need to work out a clearer balance around natural justice and protecting children.
Aren't they beautiful? Maybe so well, that's it.
The thing that has upset me most about the result of this is that I feel that he's not going to want to teach again. And that's a loss for him because that's been his life. And it's an enormous loss for children. I'll line them up outside, if you like, because he's dealt with so many difficult children over such a long period of time, and that is a huge loss to the profession.
But at the end of the day, I am innocent and out of work. I have a damaged reputation. I have a damaged ability to even do my job or carry on doing it. Had it been all dealt with very quickly, as it could have been, I believe, had it been carried out in a balanced way, then I would not be in the situation in which I sit in now.
For all the rough justice surrounding the Peter Thomas case, paedophiles like nursery teacher Jason Dabbs, jailed last year, are a salutary reminder of what the authorities are up against. It's because people like him exist we now have a Children Act. It's predicated on the principle that the child must be taken seriously and serious action must follow a complaint. The heart of the problem for teachers is sometimes overzealous interpretation on the ground.
I know, we haven't done an awful lot of abuse things in Northern Ireland, but we've got our first one. Now,
it means that Jill Sage has to tell her client at the outset that he faces a quadruple jeopardy. First, possible suspension. Second, criminal investigation, when his own children may be removed. Third, a local disciplinary hearing. Finally, he may even be banned from teaching. It could take months, perhaps years.
The Children Act 1989 basically stated that in any proceedings concerning a child, the child's welfare should be of paramount importance, and that when considering a child's case, the ascertainable wishes and feelings of the child must be taken into consideration. That is all very, very good stuff. However, it's placed the child very much in the driving seat.
But what could be wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that, but we've given children an awful lot of power. Power without responsibility and power without check.
The people, however, who see the casualties of abuse every day believe the powers children now have are long overdue. Maybe, they say, adults simply don't like what they're being told.
Because the reality is that there is a major myth in society that children are not to be believed, that children are unreliable, that children make up stories. That is the major belief. The notion that children should be believed is a very recent phenomenon, that what they may be saying could be an accurate account of their experience. I don't feel that because we have an act which says children are people, children have as much right to be believed as adults, that therefore that this enshrines their and gives empowerment